Jason. All right, well, welcome everyone. We opened the doors to our webinar for today a bit early so we can have some icebreaker fun happen while we wait for our starting time and for other folks to join. So on your screen, and maybe you saw this during December 9th webinar if you were able to join that, but on your screen you see a whiteboard and you are able to write on this whiteboard with your own computer. And so to do that, you go to the top of your screen where it says a green bar and it says you are viewing Bianca Friends of the Earth screen, and you'll see options and you click that and there's an annotate option. So if you click annotate, it will allow you to draw, to add some text boxes onto this whiteboard. And we'd love for you to start filling in our whiteboard by answering the following question. What's the weirdest food you've ever eaten? And it could be anything. And maybe it won't be a weird food for someone else, and that's okay. But for you, what's the weirdest food you've ever eaten? And we'll get these added to the chat box as well for direction. But welcome to those who have been able to join. We're doing an icebreaker on this whiteboard using the annotate function on your computer. All right, oh, Darian, nice, go. I like it. I think we see some practice rounds here. Octopus, nice. Awesome. This is looking fun so far. So for those who are maybe just joining, we have a whiteboard icebreaker happening here. So this is a function you can do on your computer for participating. So you go to the top of your screen, go to view options, click annotate, and then it will allow you to draw, to add a text box on what's the weirdest food you've ever eaten. Alligator. I have never tried alligator. I wonder if that's a big dish in Florida. This is fun. We'll let people keep participating. We'll put directions for how to participate in the chat box as well. But this is great. So letting people get their participation muscles warmed up. Oh, hello. Hi. Awesome. And I don't see the directions posted in the chat yet. I'm not sure if that's all right, at 2:30. Want to welcome everyone for attending our webinar. We have an icebreaker up here that we're just going to leave up for another couple minutes. We'd love for you to participate. And how you participate is you go to the top of your screen where it says you're viewing Bianca Friends of the Earth screen, and you click view options, and there's an annotate option. You click that, and then it's going to provide you different options for writing via text or like a paint, a little cursor with your mouse. You can participate in this question by answering what's the weirdest food you've ever eaten. Elk. All right. This is great. Thank you, folks, for participating so far. Like maybe people are still having to think about stuff. Oh, brain and snail. I wonder how the brain tasted. All right, so still letting people get entered into the webinar here. Give it just another minute, but this is an opportunity for you all to participate and get your participation muscles warmed up here by writing on this whiteboard, this virtual whiteboard that you're seeing right now. So you go to the top of your screen, you'll see an option that says view options. You click it, and there's an annotate option. You click that, and then it's going to allow you to either text or draw in your answer to what's the weirdest food you've ever eaten. Pig brain. Wow. Frog legs. I hear those taste like chicken. Squid. Awesome. All right. A lot of animal-based like foods is what I'm noticing here. Not too many weird fruits or vegetables out in the world, right? No durian is a fruit, but maybe yeah, the animal ones are the more adventurous. All right. Well, this is awesome. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this icebreaker. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. The first want to welcome you all. Thank you so much for participating and for attending today's webinar. We'll go ahead and launch our presentation PowerPoint for the day. All right. So welcome. This is the second of our two-part series. We'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. So I am Elizabeth Bond. I'm the Senior School Food Specialist at Friends of the Earth, and I'll be your MC throughout today's session. This, again, is a snapshot of our webinar series. You see that we're in the second to a four-part series. We had our webinar on December 9th, just last month, and we have two more webinars scheduled, which we're really hoping to have you all continue to participate in this webinar series and learn more about all the resources and the different success stories that we're going to be sharing throughout this series. So throughout today's webinar, we'll be asking you questions verbally and in the chat box. We want this to be interactive. So please keep an eye on the chat and add your questions. Any questions that you have throughout today's sessions, please just add that into the chat box. And we encourage any and all reactions. So please don't hold back. And we'll also be launching a few polls. So we appreciate your participation in those. Keep an eye on them. And we know this is just such challenging times with COVID. So we're really trying to avoid any Zoom zombie issues to happen. We want you all to be active and as alive as much as possible. So we appreciate your participation in advance. Going to the next slide, I just want to give another highlight of what this webinar series is all about, what we're hoping to provide to all the attendees. We want to provide inspiration, resources, and support to California school districts for starting or increasing their procurement of climate-friendly cuisine for your school meal programs. And as COVID-19 continues to impact our communities, we hope for this series to add to that support and resources being made to you, districts here in California, but also districts across our country. So during today's webinar, we're going to be exploring a bit more about what is climate-friendly cuisine to make sure we're on the same page, brief review of December 9th webinar, and we're going to hear at the heart of our presentation is going to be hearing from 3 districts on their purchasing practices related to organic, plant-forward, plant-based meal options, all of which are climate-friendly. We're going to have a Q&A with the audience following those 3 district presentations. So have those questions ready to go. And we're going to be introducing an exciting new resource, the Organic School Food, a roadmap for success. It's going to be a toolkit that's going to be made available to all the school districts and the support partners on this webinar series. We'll also be sharing briefly a funding opportunity, and your USDA professional credits information will be posted at the end of the webinar. All right, on to the next slide. So revisiting who we are, in case you don't know much about Friends of Earth, and this is maybe the first webinar presentation you've attended. So we're a nonprofit working on multiple campaigns regarding our environment here domestically, but also internationally. And we have a climate-friendly food program. And I just want to say that this work would not be possible without fellow Friends of the Earth staff that are on the call today, and the consultants who are on our webinar as well, supporting this work, all of our nonprofit support partners who are on today's webinar, and you school districts who make this work possible in the first place and keep millions of kids fed throughout our community. So just thank you for attending today. Here are 3 resources that highlight what is possible and what has worked with other school districts. And we're going to have the links to these reports posted in the chat box in case you haven't seen them yet. So this first resource you see was actually highlighted during the December 9th webinar, where you learned about the Conscious Kitchen case study. That's the organic plant-based scratch-cooked school meals and how they worked with 3 districts and the results of those efforts. And this report found that organic and plant-forward school lunch menus can actually reduce costs, and they also reduce food and packaging waste by 62%. So it's an exciting report. We hope you all get a chance to look at it and to maybe revisit December 9th presentation to get caught up with what they did. You'll also learn about 2 additional resources that we're going to be releasing throughout this webinar series, including a roadmap for school districts on procuring and serving organic school food, and also an exciting research project looking at school meals being offered across California. Next slide, please. So real quickly, a brief highlight from last month's webinar we held on December 9th. Just want to let everyone know we had a long holiday break, so going to refresh our memories a bit and also encourage folks to watch the recording of that webinar in case you weren't able to join. So we had Dr. Kendra Klein review the benefits of organic food consumption and production and the research and science that backs those benefits. That's what you see here, why it matters. Those are 3 highlights to that. We learned about the Conscious Kitchen model, as I shared in that resource earlier. And we also heard from the food service director at West Contra Costa Unified on her experiences with implementing the Conscious Kitchen model. She shared her challenges, solutions, the progress she's been able to make during COVID, and she offered advice to other school districts. We also briefly visited policy needs and funding opportunities. And throughout this webinar series, we're excited to share even more resources and district experiences with you all. Go into the next slide. All right, so real quickly, checking back in on what is climate-friendly cuisine. I'm adding some new pictures on here to keep things fresh, keep everyone engaged. So here's a visual for our webinar series, Healthy, Climate-Friendly School Food, Strategies for Success. This is what it looks like. So in the one photo, we have a tofu Asian salad where the district has offered a tofu version of this in place of chicken. In the middle, we have a dish that highlights Mary's organic chicken drumsticks, which I know Vince at Natomas has been able to provide to his students. On the right, we have a classic 3-bean chili that I know has been a big hit across multiple districts. And with this particular district, they decided to skip the cheese and just not include that. So this is what it looks like. Next slide. So when looking at these photos, what makes them climate friendly? Well, climate friendly cuisine is food service practices and meals that meet these 3 criteria. So they're plant-forward options that reduce animal proteins and swap with plant proteins. They're plant-forward, plant-based options that are healthier for the planet and use less resources, and they also tend to be healthier for us. They're foods that are produced using organic farming practices that sequester carbon in the soil, and this includes meat and dairy. There's big differences in animal agriculture practices that use organic, regenerative practices compared to what conventional agriculture practices and the impacts of those. So using less and better meat is an important practice as well. And we don't want the food we produce with all these resources used to end up in the landfill. And we know this is more challenging during COVID, but we're seeing some really creative and promising solutions happen. So we'll be learning more about climate-friendly cuisine throughout the webinar series. And each webinar will feature speakers who share a bit more about why this is important and how these food service practices can be implemented in the first place. Going to the next slide. So I want to briefly also check in on why climate-friendly cuisine is important. I know many of you maybe have heard these presentations in the past, so I'm going to try to add in some new things each webinar series, and for this one, focusing a bit on the environment. During the December 9th webinar, we learned a bit about some of the economic reasons for serving more climate-friendly meal options. We learned about the affordability. We also learned that the expectation for student demand of plant-based and plant-forward vegetarian meal options are going to continue to grow. There's multiple reasons for adopting climate-friendly cuisine practices, and today we look at just a couple of environmental reasons, and there's lots more where this came from. So food is an impactful climate mitigation strategy. 14% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock. To put this in perspective, that's more than the tailpipe emissions from all planes, trains, cars, and trucks in the world combined. We also know that agriculture uses 70% of the total available fresh water, and a third of that goes into raising livestock. Especially in California, with our water usage, we have to start changing the way that we eat food to help address this. On the graph on the right, I know it's hard to read, but it highlights the different greenhouse gas emissions tied to a pound of particular food product. So on the bottom, that long red bar, that's for a pound of beef. And if you go to the very top where you see a tiny little green bar, that's an apple. So just to show you what impact these different food items are making. But when we look at organic beef, I want to highlight this, because some of the districts on the call today are doing better animal product purchasing. When we look at organic beef and other animal products that are produced using responsible practice, it's a different story. Less and better meat is an important strategy, and reducing our meat consumption is vital for our health. So plant-rich diets, food waste reduction, well-managed grazing practices, organic and regenerative agriculture practices, they're all usually overlooked solutions to climate change. And I have the Farm to Fork CFA logo on here because they're addressing this in their upcoming Farm to School grant funding, a request for applications. You'll see this language in this grant. So we're going to have $8.5 million going into supporting more climate-friendly food production as well. So to avoid the worst impact of climate change, we must dramatically shift what we eat and how we produce our food. And of course, there's health benefits to this as well, but we'll be visiting that a bit more at the next webinar. So despite the challenges caused by COVID, districts are moving forward with adopting value-based procurement, and they're doing it in partnership with nonprofit partners. Their staff are on board. There's an amazing, amazing community of folks that are making these school meal programs possible. So I want to thank you all, especially the school district nutrition staff on this call. You are the frontline workers, and I don't think you guys are getting enough attention these days with everything else going on, but you're keeping our communities fed. And this has been such a challenging year. So I'd like to kick out 2020, look forward to 2021, and just acknowledge the truly amazing work that you all have been able to accomplish over this very difficult time. And we look forward to being of service to you with that. So going to, thank you. So sharing some recent photos of climate-friendly cuisine, just to highlight the amazing work that you're doing. Even when facing a national pandemic, food supply shortages, districts are making climate-friendly cuisine a reality. So we have here a photo of Ojai Unified preparing cabbage, and the other two photos are from Encinitas Union, which is highlighted in our organic roadmap as well. She has a less meat, better meat spaghetti dish here used from Marin Sun Farms, a great company based in California. And paper bags have been filled with 100% fresh organic produce to send to their distance learners. So this is just a snapshot of this work, and we'd love to stay in touch with you on your interests and how we can continue supporting you on these efforts as we all march forward. Next slide, please. So one of the ways we're offering support is this new resource, and it's being launched this month on organic school food, which will provide details on these 6 strategies that you see here and resources to support districts on organic school food procurement. It's going to look at marketing examples, some exciting supply chain information, and much more. And you'll hear more about this resource at the end of today's webinar from our consultant liaison. Now we get into the heart of today's webinar. I'm so excited to have these 3 school districts share their strategies with you and how they've been purchasing and serving healthy, climate-friendly menu options. So 3 districts that we'll be highlighting are San Luis Coastal, Natomas Unified, and Riverside Unified. And these 3 districts participated in the research for creating this organic roadmap, and their presentations will help inform on the 6 strategies you see outlined here on this slide. So after the 3 districts have presented, we'll have a Q&A with the audience. So please keep that in mind. We want to answer any question that comes up for you during the presentation. So feel free to throw it into the chat box in advance or have them ready to go when we launch that Q&A. And we'll be using the chat box to collect your questions, and then the panelists will be verbally responding to the various questions. So with that, I'd like to introduce Erin Primer. She's the Director of Food Services at San Luis Coastal Unified School District, and she'll share more about her operations and her innovative meals that are not only delicious, healthy, and fresh, but also climate friendly. So take it away, Erin.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thanks for everyone on the call. I really appreciate you all taking the time to talk about what's going on in school food right now, and I really am honored to be among such esteemed colleagues. Presenting with Vince and Scott is it's really wonderful to have such exceptional colleagues who are committed to the same values throughout the state, and I'm really excited to present a little bit about what we're doing in our neck of the woods on the Central Coast. Next slide, please. So we're a district on the Central Coast of California. We've got about 7,500 students, and since schools have closed in March, we've served over 600,000 meals. In this school year alone, it's over 325,000. So there's a lot going on in our school district, and I think the biggest thing for us is when schools shut down and throughout this pandemic, we've been committed to the same goal, which on a very basic level is feeding kids. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Here's a little bit about our team. This is some of the magic behind how on earth all of this happens. As you can tell, it's quite an orchestrated event. We also learned pretty quickly that moving to a weekly meal kit was going to be the right fit for our team and safety of our community. Next slide, please. When people have asked me about how do you keep up with all the changes of what's going on with COVID, I've given this funny term about pivot mastering during COVID-19. And I think many of us can relate that as new regulations, rules, needs arise, we really are just continuing to evolve and adjust and try and come up with the best possible plans to do that same core value, which is really around feeding kids. Now, in our district, what's really important to us and what drives the majority of our purchasing decisions, I love that term earlier, Elizabeth, with having values around our procurement. I think that's really important. For us, it's a lot about local food. What can we find in our area? We have a very abundant state, and we have a very abundant county in SLO County. So we're really looking around to what can I get from my neighbors? What can I source? To have all these USDA waivers and this constant changing of rules and regulations, it's difficult. It's hard to navigate these different meal service plans and changes. When I look back to March and shutting everything down, we were regularly getting delivery pizza to all of our sites, and we haven't done that since March. So imagine that going almost a year without having delivery pizza. I say that because there's a lot of opportunity for us to really hone in on what's important. What is it that we want to have on the other side of this pandemic? And I'll tell you, one of the learnings for me is actually doing pizza less often. This is something that I'm also looking to my local community for. Can I source something more in my local economy? We've done a lot of nutrition education pivoting, and that's what you're seeing here on the screen. I mentioned Kiwanos and the weird food that we've tasted, and it was something recent that we recently did here with kids. Kiwanos grow locally in SLO County. We've got an exotic fruit grower who introduced us and our students to Kiwanos, and we tasted them through the drive-through. We're really thinking about how we can creatively bring the same elements of what we've done before, but in this totally new setting. The other side, the flashing lights over here is Bitmoji Classroom. So that's another one where if you guys haven't checked out Bitmoji Classroom or utilizing Bitmoji Classroom to deliver nutrition education, I'll actually have one dropped in the chat. There we go. Thanks so much. That's one of our farm to school celebrations. So we have used the supper program. That's new for us this year. So we're able to maximize the number of meals that we're serving to our students. One of those requirements, though, is that we ensure that there's enrichment that goes home each week. So this is how we've done it. We've utilized basically Google Slides. It's a fancy version of a PowerPoint, and you're linking different things in there. If you want more information about that, email me and I'm happy to connect with you more. But thinking about how we can take the same things, nutrition education, but in an entirely new and different way. That's really the pivot mastering during all of this. We've also done virtual cooking classes. That was a really important one for us because before COVID hit, we had all these great plans to taste plant-forward meals specifically with our high school students to gauge acceptability and see where we were at. And we just couldn't do that in the same numbers that we were planning on. So a virtual cooking class we did over the summer where we actually created a recipe for a Thai basil lentil burger. That was in part to one of our former dietetic interns who's also on this call. Hi, Lauren. So utilize the people who can really help you come up with some cool, funky things. Then we were able to source local lentils and make these Thai basil lentil burgers. The virtual cooking class actually gave students all the ingredients to make this burger at home. And in order for them to participate, they had to give me a food critic write-up of their review of the item, along with a picture of what they created. It turned out to be a lot of fun, and overwhelmingly, every kid in that class loved this Thai basil lentil burger. So it's a really great way for us to connect with students, even though it looks so different than what we're currently doing. The other piece I want to touch on before we get to the next slide is the intentionality around supporting local farms and food businesses. Now, we are in the midst of yet more changes, and so I'm sourcing some local cheese. And the local creamery said to me, because of your orders in January and February, this is normally our lull time. So it's the difference of me keeping my staff employed and not having to lay them off. So when we really think about why local matters, it really is important. And for us to know that when we give money to our local economy, when we're making those purchases, not only is it supporting these businesses, but these people may have children in our district. It really is this full circle approach. Next slide, please, for me. So more on local procurement, being really intentional with that spending, making sure that, what we can do, we can. Prior to March, we were supporting a local bakery, and we had a local baked good on the menu a couple of days a week. When we moved into this pandemic feeding, I wanted to be intentional that all of those baked goods were going to come from that local bakery, ensuring that I'm able to support with my taxpayer dollars, my local economy. That's very important to me. We also want fun food experiences. Kids are going to remember that. Whether they're at home doing it or at school doing it, they're going to have memories of this. Now, I can tell you that the kids who tasted Kiwanos in my drive-thru sure are going to remember that experience as they grow up. Same with having the local lentils. When kids are connected with where their food comes from, now they're able to help make those choices within their own family. Hey, Mom, I saw Kandarian lentils at the farmer's market. We had those in school. Let's buy them. And it's also helping shape the consumer of tomorrow so that they're the ones who are going to be helping ensure that these businesses are around the longer we go, and especially on the other side of this pandemic. We also decided that we were going to offer a plant-forward meal kit option. That was in part to that virtual cooking class and hearing more interest around this. What I will tell you is that prior to adding it, I thought, well, we've done vegetarian meals in the past, and, I've got cheese pizza and a bean burrito, and like that meets the need, right? Boy, was I wrong. Putting a plant-forward meal kit as an option on our menu actually became about 30% of all of our orders. And it was amazing how many traditional meat eaters signed up for this plant-forward option because it tasted really good. And I will say that having this culinary lens and using taste-focused labels, a Thai basil lentil burger sure sounds a lot different than the veggie patty option, right? So how we talk about food and the words that we use are really important. And it really allows us to draw in a wider audience of customer than just those who are traditionally labeled vegan, vegetarian, etc. So we're really into featuring these climate-friendly foods and utilizing local foods to push this even further. Next slide, please. These are just some of those pictures. This is a picture of that lentil burger. Gosh, doesn't it just look so delicious? I want one right now. I should have planned this better, that I had like one magically drop in. Next time, we'll Food Network style this so we can taste the things. But this is a picture of it. And this is a real picture. This is real school food. This is actually the local bun, the local lentils. And then on the other side, this is one of the chefs that was in our cooking class. And I actually asked him to come in and prepare this sample that he made at home so the superintendent could try it. Talk about layers of marketing. It's really important that we get these supporters in here. And they masked up, they followed all of our safety precautions, and they were able to have this experience together that I just thought was really wonderful. So, share your story, make sure people know what you're doing, especially your leadership and your admin. Next slide, please. This is another one where just some ideas of what we've had in our meal kit. This is some of the plant-forward options. We had this mighty marinara pasta with chickpeas. We also had a bean and cheese nacho. And, I was beaten up a little bit on the bean burrito and the cheese pizza. And what I will say is that this made me a lot happier because I was able to source a local chip. Montana de Oro chips from Taco Works or from SLO County. And so I thought, well, if we're going to do something that's a little more basic, I think I'm going to make it pretty exciting with the local stuff. And we did a garden veggie frittata that was also paired with those chips as well. Next slide, please. So this is how I kind of want to leave you all today, and getting on to the next speakers. They're going to share with you just more incredible ideas. And I really want to leave you with, we really can, as school food professionals, have a rebirth out of this pandemic. The things that were hard for us to do before, the changes we wanted to make that, maybe we didn't quite see how it was possible. That's what I think the pandemic has brought to us. There's a lot of negative things. There's a lot of challenging things, but outside of this, when we get through this, we can really shape the types of foods we want to buy. We can really support our local farms and food businesses and really ensure that all children have access to real, healthy, delicious, and nutritious foods at school. And I'm really thrilled to be a part of that and to be among just such esteemed colleagues who feel the same way. Thank you. I appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram at SLCUSD Food. I'm sticking around for questions and happy to share more. But thank you, everyone, for your work, and continue to fight the good fight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. Yeah, that lentil burger gets me every time. I think I've seen it at least 50 times now. So I need one dropped in also. It's such wonderful examples. And if more questions, we've already captured a few questions that hopefully we'll be able to discuss more during the Q&A. But if anything else comes up, please add that in. And we have Erin available during the Q&A session. So we're going to launch a poll question here while we get Vince set up for his presentation to highlight more about what Natomas is doing. So this poll that you see here, we just want to hear a bit more from you. You know, you've heard a little bit about what climate-friendly cuisine is. You've heard examples from Erin on what she's been able to do. So we'd love to hear from you on what are some of your top barriers towards serving more plant-forward and climate-friendly meal options. Meals that are organic, plant-based, plant-forward, less meat, better meat, more responsible animal products. We'd love to hear from all of you. Please, you can click multiple options if you like, if there's 2 or 3 that are really sticking with you for your district. So we'll just give a few more seconds for this. See a lot of people jumping in here, so thank you. This is great. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we'll pause there. It looks like we got a lot of you participating in that. So I'll also close ties there, but thank you for your participation in that. So now I'd like to introduce Vince. He's the Director of Nutrition Services and Warehousing at Natomas Unified, and he'll share more about his best practices around climate-friendly cuisine options. All right, Vince, take it away.
Thank you. So it was the week of March 15th, I called Erin Primer, who spoke previously. I said, what's going on? This is a mandate, we have to do it. And one of the things she said, and that still sticks to this day, is regardless of what's happening, this is our opportunity to reset school food. We're in the center stage. Everyone's paying attention to us. This is our opportunity to showcase the world of what school food can do. And it's by no coincidence that, you know, we collectively as an industry have received so much publications and highlights of what we're doing. By us, as Elizabeth said, probably we don't get enough. But school food has really become the cornerstone for most of our communities. So like most of us, in March, goals kind of went out the window. They took a pause. And we switched to certain habits or certain systems that we believe in. Organic food's important to us, but in some way it's a byproduct of what we do, what we value, and some of the systems we have. So in a recent quote from a book, James Clear, he'll say, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. You fall to the level of your beliefs, your habits, etc. So while prior to March 2020, we had 7, 10 goals with our department, I think with the pandemic hit, and even still to this day, these are the 3 things that we value and that we operate under, and we don't know where it's going to lead us. But it's by no accident that we're serving 120% more meals than before, 400% more snacks than the year before. Our budget's in a good place. And you know, we're buying twice as much more from local farmers directly than we were in the years before. So the three things we value, and we'll speak to this, but the first one, provide quality to our students and community. That's one. That looks different for every single district, but that's definitely one that we want to put on the forefront. Thanks to the waivers, the community involved, libraries, community centers outside of our 15 schools. We want to provide our staff with quality jobs. We invest in them. It's by no accident that 14 out of the 16 lead positions that we have in our kitchens are promoted from within. So backtrack Natomas story 10 years ago, we were infamous because we were on the verge of a state takeover. But investing in them and investing in their professional development, the same staff, no one got fired from that staff. They're the ones leading this work. Number three, what we really believe in as well, a lot of byproducts into the organic, supporting local farmers and growers. So if you look at the next slide, you know, at the very forefront, we want to provide quality to our students and community. And I often get the comment, and it's true, and I'll admit it, that sometimes when people look at my menu, it doesn't make sense. Like it's all over the place, it's all these different menu items, but it makes sense to me because we know that we develop our menu with our students. So we're actively involved with our students through culinary clubs, school gardens, etc. And they help us develop school meals. Some people call it, they take a restaurant item and they schoolify it, or we take them on a farm, like we did since 2015 around October Farm to School Month, and show them where their food comes from. It's by no accident as well that, you know, since, well, back to probably 2014, we took them to a farm and they picked out certain birds, turkey, and they picked out certain squash. And that year we started doing an annual holiday meal with butternut squash. It's not on this picture right here, but you know, in this picture is that Mary's turkey that we do serve to the students. I was maybe a little overambitious at first. I took the culinary students in the kitchen and helped them fabricate squash, turkey, etc. That was 2 great days of production and followed with like a whole week of cleaning up butternut squash all over the walls. But I mean, that's what our menu is. It's our students telling us what to put on supper, what to put on lunch, helping it develop with them. And because they help develop it, participation naturally rises with it. So that's 1. 2, a system and value that we hold dear is we want to provide our staff with quality jobs. So quality jobs, not necessarily just the pay. I think pay has a threshold, but pay above pay is something that's meaningful to them. So pre-COVID, we would go into classrooms and teach them about all the different culinary techniques that they can utilize to make food. So that's how we got a Caesar chicken lettuce wrap, like you're seeing in the menu. Or sorry, like you're seeing in the picture. That's how we're getting, pinwheel wraps. We make our own salad dressings. It's because students help us create this. So a lot of our staff are promoted from within. I said 14 out of 16. We had a very vibrant culinary training program, something I'm comfortable with in my background. But even at the very beginning, you know, it's easy for me 9 years down the line at Natomas to say, hey, look at what we have accomplished after 9 years of solid investment with the team. But I can remember 8.5 years ago when we first rolled out our, I'll use this term loosely, a speed scratch menu item called a 3-layer bean dip, which is beans, salsa, and nacho cheese piped into a container, using that term speed scratch loosely. And so many people called out because it was hard. It was something that they had to put together themselves, in opposed to just putting in the oven low and slow, 2 hours later checking it and then serving it to the team. So we're at a point now where our farmer can give us whole heads of lettuce can give us whole frozen turkeys and even primal cuts of animals, and we're able to fabricate it and serve it to our students. So that's what investing into our staff looks like. And otherwise, the third important point, supporting our local farmers, not a complete list, but we support 8. We buy from 8 farms directly. Some of the farms are listed there, thanks to CAF for connecting us with some of them. But in the pandemic, we've doubled our direct purchasing with them. We've also increased our DoD purchasing. I think from a lot of the stories that you'll hear, because we had the relationship with them, picking up the phone and seeing what they had available, and what they had in season, or even what they had for sale, is made it much easier to purchase and get across into our students' lunch bags. It's easier, even knowing from Aaron's perspective, when your business is relationship-based and not so transactional, you do well pre-pandemic or during a pandemic. But the last slide, I think part of being in Sacramento is everything is so close to us. At the Capitol, we hold our annual picnic at the Capitol. And the picture to the left is like the library superintendent, Kathy from No Kid Hungry, United Way, Senator Pan is on there, and a lot of other important elected individuals. It's just finding that network within your community and throwing an event together like this. This picture came about from an idea that Stamnon said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we showcase school food, or if we showcase what school food is about in our own backyard? And of course, when you say something like that, people will go, that's a great idea, put something together. And this is how this picture came about. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vince. That was great to hear of your examples. Really appreciate you being available for this. And yeah, we've seen some great questions pop up in the chat box so far. So I want to encourage folks to keep adding those in. If there's anything that comes up for you with Vince's operations that you'd love to hear more about, please add that to the chat, and we can address those during the Q&A discussion. And yes, thank you, Bianca. We'll have this poll question up. We'd love to hear if you're interested in receiving technical assistance on making your menus more climate friendly. So Friends of the Earth, as well as many other nonprofit support partners are here to help. So please fill this out, and we'll be following up with folks after the webinar and the series to see how we can be of service to you. So while this poll question is up, I did want to address one of the questions that came up. I really appreciate this question being addressed. I want to make sure there's no confusion around the different greenhouse gas emissions and the different impacts to the environment that different food products can have. So this question was about cheese and how that is called climate friendly. So cheese does give off massive amounts of greenhouse gas emissions. If you remember that greenhouse gas emission chart of the different food products, cheese is right there above beef. It comes from cows, so if it's made in the conventional system, which most cheese is, we know that has a huge impact. We also know that the USDA Foods program provides a lot of cheese to school districts, and school districts often depend on those cheese products. So we know it's very much in school food. We want to help with highlighting how school districts are making their food delicious without the use of cheese, because it is important. It makes a big difference when you can remove cheese from the vegetarian or plant-based meals. A lot of folks maybe think from a culinary perspective that you need cheese for something to be delicious, but that lentil burger that we saw doesn't have cheese in it. So that's a pretty tasty lentil burger. So we know that it's possible. We know we can do these things without, that choppers like cheese and the different items that do have a big impact on our environment. I want to quickly share an example. We worked with the school district on doing this calculation for them. They had that 3-bean chili that you saw on one of my first slides, and they would add an ounce of cheese for those dishes to the students. And they decided to just eliminate that. And those servings were at 84,000 servings a month. They were doing 1 ounce cheese. So 84,000 ounces of cheese. If you do the greenhouse gas calculation on that, after 10 months, that is saving the equivalent greenhouse gas emissions of not driving for 580,000 miles. So that's 1 ounce of cheese being scrapped from the menu, and that's the difference that it made for our environment. So just want to visit that quickly, make sure there's no confusion over, the impact of these different food items. But we know there's a lot of challenge with meeting meal requirements, making these dishes delicious. So our hope is that we can highlight these promising practices that other school districts are doing to show you that it is possible, and we can all take small steps towards getting to some of these end goals. So thank you for participating in the poll. We'll go ahead and jump into Scott's presentation. So Scott, he's the Riverside food coordinator, and he works very closely with the nutrition services team at Riverside Unified on supplying them fresh, local, and often organic produce from their local community. And I'd like to invite Scott to share with us more on what they're up to and what they've been doing.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for allowing me.
All right. Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to present on behalf of Riverside Unified School District Nutrition Services. We can move to the next slide. We have a 67% free and reduced in our school. So we're a decent sized city. We have 300,000 people who live in the city of Riverside. So it's a decent sized city. You can move to the next. I'm gonna move through some of these slides pretty quickly and then talk about some of the other things. We serve about 37,000 meals a day. That was pre-pandemic. I'll talk about what we've done post-pandemic. Pandemic. This is what we serve for supper, lunch, and breakfast. Next slide. One of the things that we're known for, and this was started by Rodney Taylor. So many of you may not know Rodney. He has since retired, but he started our farmers market salad bars in 33 of our elementary schools. And what this allows us to do is really buy a lot of produce from our local farmers. So the kids have to go through the salad bar first and have a rainbow of vegetables on their plate before they get their entree. So this has allowed us to buy a lot of organic and regenerative grown agriculture or produce from local farmers in Riverside and the Inland Empire. Next. So we have a vibrant school to farm program. We have 24 farmers now who supply produce to the school district. And I'll talk about a little later about who's organic and who is not. Next. I actually work for the school districts as the food hub coordinator. So I'll talk a little bit about that. That's a grant funded position to support local farmers with marketing and distribution. So what I do is, for example, if a restaurant tells me that they want to buy local produce from farmers, if they want to buy their entire menu, they may have to deal with 7 different farmers. So what I do actually is we'll source all the produce from the 7 different farmers and deliver to the restaurant with one invoice also. And then when the district will pay the farmers, then we will collect the money from the restaurant, which is actually beneficial to them so they don't have to wait for payment also. So that's what I do. But I also do the purchasing for the school district from local farmers for our school nutrition program also. Next. And I'm also a local farmer too. There's a picture of me and my farm. Actually, I have a 2.5 acre urban farm that I run in my spare time, which is rare, but I do happen to keep it up. Next. And these are a couple of recipes that we've done that are some of our meatless recipes. There's one here. You can switch to the next menu. The next screen, and that's our marinara sauce recipe. You don't have to look at it. Everyone probably has these recipes. We do a lot of scratch cooking. Rodney Taylor invested a lot of money in steel skillets and kettles that we cook a lot of food in. So as you know, it costs money to buy locally grown produce. So to offset that, we decided to increase our scratch cooking to lower our food costs to allow us to spend money locally and buy local produce, which is a little more expensive also. So that's how we've offset our produce purchases. Next. And we've done some California fresh pop-up markets. These are some of the things that we've served at some of these, and there's cheese in there too. I see. Sorry. Here's just some more pictures of our California fresh pop-ups. Next screen. We have done California Thursdays, and we're going to pick that up again once we open our school sites again, which I hope is soon. We have been trying to reopen, but we keep having COVID outbreaks, so we keep moving our opening date further into 2021. So I'm hopeful that we can at least open for some in-class learning here before the end of the school year. One of the things that happened to us almost immediately was we were staffed to feed almost 37,000 kids a day. And because of the pandemic, we were only feeding 7,000. So we had a lot of excess staff that we didn't really know how to utilize them. And we were actually paying them to be at home because we had no work for them. And so I decided to apply for some USDA Farmers to Family food boxes, and we are the only school district in the country that was awarded a contract to fill those boxes. We also got a contract with the California Association of Food Banks to fill senior food boxes, and another contract with our city of Riverside to fill and distribute 60,000 emergency food boxes. So since middle of May, we've packed 95,000 food boxes, not only filled them and packed them, but we've also distributed them to food pantries, food banks, churches, other school districts. And really what was important to me about that was it allowed me to take some of this federal money and spend it and invest it locally with local vendors and local farmers. And we were purchasing almost $35,000 a week in local produce from vendors, which really is helpful, and I would tell people, why are you doing this? Well, the federal faucet is flowing. I'm getting the biggest bucket I can and filling it up and reinvesting it locally to try to create economic activity to help lift our economy, because as you know, a lot of people are not working out there, or they're not working as many hours. And here's some pictures of our boxes that we filled. We already had an existing infrastructure, coolers, packing staff, and also trucks to deliver the boxes, so it made perfect sense. So I'll talk about that a little bit. There is more emergency COVID money coming. So if you're a school district and you want to do some of this work, reach out to your local city. They're all receiving COVID relief money, and emergency food relief is one of the ways that the easiest ways to spend some of that money. So if you have excess staff and you want to pack boxes, go ahead and talk to your local city and see if they're willing to help fund some of the purchase of those boxes. Next. What's next? We're continuing California Thursdays. We do Meatless Mondays. Again, we have done Meatless Mondays in the past, and we will do it again. And we're expanding our scratch cooking. And I want to add more farmers. And I'll talk about our farmers also. One of the things that's important to me with our local farmers is not only are they organic, that they also use regenerative growing practices, which will increase carbon capture in our soil also. For example, in the last 3 years, I've helped them write, I think 25 of them have received Healthy Soils grants, which allows them to buy compost, pay for hedgerows, and also cover crops for them to help increase their regenerative soil building practices also, which is good for our planet. I think if we want to look at climate change, helping farmers improve their growing practices is a great way to address climate change. And that's all I have. So if anyone's had questions.
Great, thank you so much, Scott. Yeah, it's such an innovative model, and it's just so exciting to see all the resources that you guys have been able to bring into your community, and also the support and resources that you're getting right back to them. So thank you for sharing all that, really exciting. So we do have some questions that have come through, and some of them I know, Arian, thank you for responding via the chat. But I do want to make sure folks that are maybe just listening in have a chance to hear some of these responses as well. So there was a question, and also Vince or Scott, if you know of what's working at your district, I wanted to ask about some of the packaging, one of the questions that came through. So they said, our satellite kitchens require fully packaged meals. Does anyone have a recommendation for eco-friendly packaging?
You know, when you have when you have good food, there's an increase in participation, and with an increase in participation, we have more revenue to spend on eco-friendly packaging. We did that. We switched from styrofoam to eco-friendly packaging, and note this: like 1 million meals equals an increase of 170,000 in 1 year. So if you have $350 for reimbursement, half of it's labor, most of it's for food, you know, 8 cents a package, or 8 cents a package is, you can justify it if you serve more volume. So I think as long as we're getting the volume that we are, we continue with the packaging.
That's great. And Erin?
I was just looking at the chat, and someone asked a really great question about how you can do all of this with regards to the bid process. And I wanted to speak to that for a moment. And that is that you can do a lot with micro purchase and small purchases. The way that I handle it is there's room at my proverbial table for everyone. I have yet to meet a farmer where I've said, oh, I'm sorry, I have too much local product I can't buy from you. So I'm able to really leverage that and use that to have multiple awardees and not just go with the lowest price. So look at your procurement rules around what that looks like. Once you get to purchasing with a purveyor or a vendor, my first question is always, how much do I need to buy before I get the biggest discount? So when we buy in bulk, we can really do that. I just purchased 25 pounds of chia from Kandarian because that was the amount I needed to buy to get the best price. So it really allows you to leverage some things and maybe some ways we haven't always thought about doing that in the procurement model.
Yeah, there's one organization that I'll attribute a lot of direct purchasing to. It's noted in the case study, and that's CAF, Community Alliance with Family Farmer. Ben and Yusuf are on this call, and I'll get the credit and be the face of it, but they put together the 40-page RFP that keeps me in compliance. And when I say 40 pages, I know they've been working with farmers, California Department of Education, or whatever the state agency is, to help us be within compliance. Because it's true, one of the main roadblocks to buying direct is there's paperwork and bidding that's involved, and CAF is helping.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned that, Vince, because we're hoping to share a lot more detail on the roadmap and with some of the partners that are doing amazing work in this space and supporting school districts and our local California farmers who are the people providing this food in the first place. So for January 27th webinar, we're hoping to highlight more of that work and highlight some of the work that CAF is doing if our schedule works out. So thank you for bringing that up. So I just want to encourage folks to attend the 27th and hear more about that, hopefully at that date. Any other responses from folks so far on that? We have a lot more questions coming through. Awesome. I think I see a question from Kat that is very operational focused. And so I'm hoping we can maybe look at just a couple of those. So she's asking how many full-time employees with benefits versus part-time employees do you have in your department? Are you generating revenue or using general funds to support the work you're doing?
I was trying to math it all out real quick and you caught me here. So we have about 7,500 kids. So 26 total employees, 1 director, 1 supervisor, one fiscal accounting person who doubles as my unspoken admin, one cook, 3 senior food service workers, 2 drivers. That's pretty much my full-time staff. And then the rest are part-time staff. There's some weird benefit option things, but the bigger answer to your question, and 2 points I want to make. One is, this is the time to look at your models. If it's not serving your purpose, change it. Work with HR, build the positions you need. This is the time to make it happen. The other piece is about being fiscally responsible or fiscally solvent. I want you to know that when I took over this district, we were losing over $300,000 a year. We were bleeding red everywhere. It was bad. In a year, I turned it around in half. Never been so happy to lose over 100 grand. And today, I can tell you that we are in the black. And we are in the black because of very intentional, smart purchasing. The other piece to it is utilizing commodity foods, and I'm happy to dive deeper into that separately. I am an unofficial commodity queen because I maximize that, and I'm always looking at how to maximize my program, maximize my reimbursements, putting money into my local economy, and I am beyond proud to tell you that it is possible. We can hit black by doing it this way, but it does take a lot of really intentional decision-making to get there. It's possible.
Yeah, Aaron takes all my DODs.
That's true. That's a fact.
We doubled our DODs as well, our government allotment for that. So I'm of the mindset, similar to Aaron, that you can grow a business by cutting staff, or you can grow it. I think prior to the pandemic, there's some districts that only serve breakfast and lunch. In Natomas, we serve breakfast, lunch, supper, snack, summer, weekend, holiday meals, spring break, Thanksgiving. So we're on track to offer meals 365 days of the year on May 1st. And with that equals more revenue. And, one of our values, providing my staff with quality jobs. A lot of them not only got more hours, but because they got more hours, they're able to get more benefits, or they qualify for benefits now.
Hi, and our USD has 300 employees, which about 100 of them are actually full-time. As far as in the black, we were not in the black, but thankfully because of our emergency food box income that we were actually receiving more money for emergency food boxes than we were in USD reimbursements at one point. So thankfully that has helped us sort of stabilize our finances. But we did have to close quite a few sites. With 50 sites, we closed almost half of them, and that staff that we had to pay throughout the pandemic and who were not actually generating income. So it's been somewhat of a struggle for us financially.
Yeah, thanks for sharing more of that. And it kind of relates to capacity and staff and having support for various activities. But a couple of questions here related around overall marketing and how you're promoting your different meal service options, especially Aaron with the Plant-Forward menu line, and Vincent Scott as well. So folks are asking about, how you're getting buy-in for meals in your community, how you're making time to do marketing to get folks that know that these meals even exist. Love to hear a bit more about that from you all.
Yeah, I think like a timeless marketing strategy, in opposed to timely, like, hey, TikTok, Snapchat, etc., is like you're never the hero of your own story. And there's many districts on here which I admire your marketing. What I mean by you're not the hero of your own story is, I think being in our position, we get to go, hey, look at this organic produce from this farm. If you participate in meal program, you'll get to eat it. Hey, look at this farmer. Hey, look at what my staff is learning how to do. They're learning how to do julienne cuts on carrots. So when you get to brag on them, it gives a behind the scenes look, and it definitely has increased my participation.
It seems overwhelming. It does. And I get it. I think someone else made a comment on here, and like, it's baby steps, right? This didn't happen overnight. You find one thing you can do and you change that one thing, and then you talk all about that one thing and you tell everybody about that thing and make sure everybody knows about that thing. then you get to do the next thing. You know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? It's the same idea. For us, we've really leaned in to Instagram. We are very heavy presence there. You're welcome to follow us. And so we try and use that to communicate out with our families. And you don't have to be the only one to tell your story. I think that's a really big piece too. Look at your local community, not just for where you can get product and foods, but where you can get supporters. You know, we have a great partnership with Cal Poly and their dietetic internship program. That's something where I will take all the dietetic interns I can. The more people that we can turn on to school food and show them like, hey, you have interest in these areas, you can make these things happen in a real way. I think that's really exciting. And trust in that. That's very hard, especially for those of us directors who want to do all the things ourselves. But I turn the keys over to the Instagram. So you guys like all the different things. It's because I allow other people to do it. Like Vince said, have other people help you tell that story. And you're saying, well, I don't have dietetic interns and I don't have a university or college around me. You know, look what you do have. You know, community college. I found great interns at community colleges by going to their nutrition class and talking to them and being a guest presenter. Even at the high schools that we have, I've heard someone share this idea. I've yet to do it myself, but I think it's brilliant. Why not pay a high school kid to run your social media account? Now you can go through a whole process of either paying them or giving them, you know, there's different ways to do it, but there are people who want to support our work. And I think we have to just be able to open ourselves up and open up our hearts and our minds to letting others help us tell that story. We don't have to do it alone.
We actually are a large school district, so we have quite a bit of staff, and we have an IT person who does our social media. So she also sends out dialers to announce what we're doing every week for our school lunch program. What really has helped us actually is when we started distributing some of the emergency food boxes at our school sites along with our lunches, our participation increased almost 30 to 40%. So there is a fifth round of Farmers to Family USDA boxes that are out there, and they're going to start on the 19th, I believe. So if you have any distributors who are doing that, they love school districts because they can drop off a whole semi-load at your school and let you do the distribution rather than them have to deliver to food pantries and smaller churches. They'd rather bring semi-loads, and that will help your participation also. But let me say something about the USDA. Originally, when they started doing the USDA Farmers to Family food boxes, they were all produce, which is wonderful. And then our agriculture secretary got involved and wants pre-cooked chicken in it, cheese, dairy, pre-cooked meats. And it really is not a eco-friendly box anymore. And unfortunately, you know, as we know, the USDA has always been about big ag, and it really did pivot to big ag and supporting big ag and dairy farmers and beef farmers. And I'm not happy about that. I did apply for the fifth round. I don't know whether I'm going to get it or not because it's now a competitive bid process, and I haven't been successful the last couple of rounds. So hopefully we'll see if I get a bid or get it chosen to be a contractor or not.
Awesome, thank you all. And I think we just have time for one more question. So I'm going to do an operational related question while we have these experts on the panel to talk about these. But real quick, there's been a couple questions and comments related to beef and school food. And I just want to share that we have seen when school district we worked with in particular just decided to completely remove beef from their menu altogether. They stopped purchasing it. It's been a successful move. Their board is very supportive of the work that district is doing. And Friends of the Earth is happy to share more details on that particular case study. And we're seeing school districts make these shifts and, you know, deciding to pick different things from USDA foods that are cleaner and less, you know, of these heavy environmental impact items. I know Erin is all about the clean products that are available through USDA foods and have limited preservatives and all that good stuff. So I know she's got more to say on that too. But before, we go on to the next presenter, I want to ask one last question on grab-and-go meals because there's been, that's popped up, and I know that's a big need for school districts, or they're interested in learning more. So this person asked, is anyone offering grab-and-go meals for 2 weeks? If so, any success stories you can share?
Yeah, so we offered grab-and-go during the holiday break. Last year, we did 789 meals with the waivers. We did all 14 days. 2 rounds of 7, and we served over 80,000. So if you do the math, that's 10,000% increase, 10,000% more meals that were served, more kids that were served that didn't go hungry, local farmers that we produced, and a byproduct of that is the revenue that comes with it.
I'm crazy and do crazy things. So yes, yes to the grab and go meals. We went quickly from a daily meal to a weekly meal kit by like the second week of March. And that was to minimize exposure for staff and our customers as well. Learnings from doing it in a weekly box. I think maximizing your reimbursements, maximizing how many meals you can get to kids, that really is, you know, a big piece of how we've been navigating. And it really does give families the amount of food that they really need. The big piece that we've done is we've shifted now to more of a pantry box where we're giving more bulk staple items. One of the pieces that I maintain, and I don't know that I recommend this, but we want documents of everything and kind of knowing lots of too much information. So I have a sign up sheet. You have to pre-order in order to get this box. And so that's helped us a little bit with program integrity and trying to keep some amount of sanity, but we're producing, gosh, probably anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 kits a week. And that's multiplied by some sort of 3 meals a day and 30,000 meals in a week. And at some point, the numbers just become lots of large things. So, you know, I think trying stuff out, the biggest takeaway that I would have for you with grab and go meals, especially if you haven't done it, is try it. Try it, test it out. You never know what's going to happen until you try it. And I promise you, when you try it, you're going to learn and you're going to tweak and you're going to refine. And it is okay. You need to make a change. You need to make a change on a menu item, a day of the week, a service. It's all okay. Nobody has a guidebook on how to operate school meal service in the midst of a pandemic. I promise you, next pandemic will be great. But this go around, we're doing our best. We're trying to make it work, and it's happened to me many times where I've had to give myself that grace of like, hey, you need to make a change. It's okay. We're all in this trying to make it all work, and we're all evolving and learning as we go. So don't be afraid to make a choice because you're not sure how it would work. Do it, try it, learn from it, hone it in, make it better. It's possible. It's all good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. I think we're going to end the Q&A on that note. The saying that comes to my mind is fall forward and fall fast, you know, when you're trying these things. So you're definitely a model for that. And all 3 of you, just thank you for all the amazing efforts and all the work that you're continuing to do despite all the challenges that COVID's bringing to your department, whether it's budgetary, staff, and capacity. You guys are doing an amazing job getting food out to your community. So just thank you for sharing your examples, your success stories, and for joining us today for this webinar series on healthy, climate-friendly school food. So we're going to our final presenter, Leah Smith, who is a consultant with Friends of the Earth, and she's going to highlight our new roadmap that's coming out. And we're going to be going into more details on this roadmap on January 27th, that webinar that we're holding. But Leah's just going to give a nice preview of what to expect with this roadmap. So Leah, please take it away. Can't hear Leah.
Hi, I'll start again. Hi, I'm so excited by all the interest in climate-friendly and organic school food that I've been seeing today. I've been watching the chat box. There's so much activity going on, and it's just truly wonderful to see everybody engaged in this webinar. I had the really distinguished opportunity to interview Erin and Vince and Scott for the Organic School Food Roadmap, and they each have incredible stories, and what they shared today is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Erin, I can't wait to sink my teeth into that lentil burger someday. I know it's going to be delicious. I'm just so impressed by your fierce commitment to all the local businesses in your community, especially during this time. Vince, I love some of the stories that you shared about kids like knowing the names of the farmers around your district and that they really have a deepening relationship with their own community as a result of the food that you're purchasing and serving to the kids. And Scott, I'm just so excited by the whole model of a food hub that's nested within a school food, a school food service program that a district has invested in, and kind of the opportunities that that might present as a model for some other districts around the state to really take that investment in local food and farms and organic agriculture and really run with it. I'm going to quickly introduce myself. Leah Smith, I'm the consultant for Friends of the Earth, and I have more than 20 years of experience dedicated to supporting sustainable local and organic food systems. I've also done a lot of work connecting schools with farms and healthy organic foods. I'm very pleased to be leading Friends of the Earth's Organic School Food Initiative, which was launched as part of the Climate-Friendly School Food Program in 2020, just before the pandemic hit. So I'm going to take the next few minutes to introduce you to an exciting and newly developed and almost hot off the presses resource, Organic School Food, a Roadmap for Success. You will soon have this in your hot little hands. This resource was really developed to help school districts across California in their efforts to serve organic foods. It's a very practical, and balanced with a lot of great inspiration and stories. It was informed by more than 35 interviews with professionals from the school food supply chain. So distributors, food hub coordinators, farmers, other food producers, as well as school food service professionals. And it's really informed by interviews with organizations that support school food service programs as well, in the areas of school nutrition, menu development, farm to school programming, bid generation, which we already heard about CAF's really great work, local and organic procurement, and marketing and education. So we've got a lot of great information that we've kind of pulled together to inform this roadmap. Like I said, it has lots of practical information, how-tos, and really great examples of success in the real world. And you heard some of those today, but there's many more in there. I'm excited to present this resource in more depth in the next webinar. And if you sign up for the webinar on the 27th, you will receive a downloadable PDF of the Organic Roadmap. So now that that resource is becoming available, we're really launching this next phase of the Organic School Food Initiative, which is really focused on providing technical assistance to school districts who are ready to start procuring organic foods or expanding your organic procurement efforts. So sneak peek, here we go. This is an overview of the Organic Roadmap. And as you can see, it's not organized in a linear process. It's really organized in a very circular manner because, as Vince and Aaron and Scott mentioned, there's no one straight line to get to organic procurement. There's lots of starting points. You start small. There's ways to be creative and leverage, blended meat and vegetable foods so that you can offset the cost of buying meat to free up more money for organic investment. So there's lots of great ideas here. These are 6 strategies that the roadmap is organized around. And I will definitely be going into more detail at our next presentation. There are 7 success stories. Sorry, back one slide. 7 success stories. So you heard from 3 of our presenters today about their successes and their challenges, because nobody, gets through this without hitting some bumps in the road. So you heard from Natomas, Riverside, San Luis Coastal, but we also have some great stories from Encinitas, Morgan Hill, Tahoe Truckee, Kat, nice to see you here today, and San Francisco Unified. There's lots of practical resources here. Just a secret, the appendix is just about as valuable as the strategies in the roadmap itself. So that's just a little inside scoop here. The stories that you heard today are summarized in brief in the roadmap, but they're also the entirety of Vince's interview and Aaron's interview, and what we gleaned from and learned from them is also included in the appendix. So you get lots of great information. So if you want to dig deeper into what Vince shared with you today, it's all there. Next slide. All right, so just to give you a little teaser about what the practical resources are that are included in the roadmap, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of some of the useful appendices documents, which you're going to have once the roadmap comes out very soon. So Appendix A, which is not what you're seeing here, but which I just talked about, is all those amazing success stories in full. Appendix B is the organic product and supplier list. So we've got this is just page 1. This isn't by no means the entirety of the list. There's lots of great producers, distributors, organizations that are included in this appendix. And there's just so much great information about where they serve and what products they have available. And we got a lot of this information from Vince and Aaron and Scott and the folks that we interviewed. And there's even more. So not only have we included what we learned from our research, but we know that DCOF, for example, and CAF, they have lots of other great suppliers and organic product information that you can access as well. Next. Appendix C, grant opportunities. I know that was mentioned a number of times today. How do you fund this? So there are some really amazing grants that are out there specifically to support farm to school, local procurement, organic procurement, and we really want to make those resources easily available to you through this appendix. Next. Organic school food technical assistance resources. We know, and I think Aaron, you mentioned this, partnerships are key, working with other organizations, finding allies, finding folks who could help you with your marketing or give you some posters to put up in your school cafeteria once the kids are back. There's so many great resources that are out there. Next. So Appendix E is just, there's already some really great information about the benefits of organic food and farming in the main body of the roadmap. But in case you want to dig deeper and know more and have some more data, if you want to make a presentation to your school board, there's some great data in here that you can pull from to help talk to the importance of what you're doing, why you want to buy and invest in organics for your kids. Next. And I would be so sad if I didn't give you just a little brief teaser on the first page of the 7 success stories. So this is the snapshot from Encinitas Union Elementary School District. We've got, like I said, great information, success stories. Each of them are truly inspirational. And there are quotes like you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen from each of the 7 districts, just to really get you thinking. I mean, I'm sure at the end of Vince and Aaron and Scott's presentation today, you were like, oh my gosh, there's so many different things that I could try and do. So a lot of these quotes are really to help inspire you. And they're not only inspirational, but they're also very practical. So let me see what else I want to say here. The last slide that I have here, so Bianca, you can forward that slide. So now that you've heard about how success has happened at these 3 districts, and you will soon learn more, we want to invite you to attend webinar 3, which is coming up in just 2 short weeks. So you can learn more about how you can bring this success to your district. Webinar 3 is going to be that deeper dive into the roadmap, and it's going to help you make use of this practical resource. So the poll just popped up. If you're interested in technical assistance with incorporating climate-friendly and organic foods, please respond to the poll question and indicate if you're interested in technical assistance. You can also contact me directly. My contact information is listed on the slide. Thanks so much, and see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah. And I do apologize to all the folks who are still with us. We are going a few minutes over. We just have 1 or 2 more minutes of announcements to make here. So we'll go to the next slide and close the poll. But thank you for those who were able to participate so far. So you see here a funding opportunity. I know there was just a question about if there's available support for applying for this grant. Please reach out to us. We do have capacity to help a couple of folks who are interested in the CDFA Farm to School grant program. I know there was also a question earlier about if any school districts are considering organic purchasing as part of this incubator grant program. We'd love to hear from you if you are in fact interested in doing that. I have some quotes up here on the slide that highlight some of the language that's used in the request for applications. So you'll see here strategies that increase resilience to climate change, organic or transitioning to organic. So this is language about what type of producers this grant is looking to help support. So I wanted to note that, make sure this is on everyone's radar. If we go to the next slide, we'll quickly move through our remaining slides here. So as Leah mentioned, here's a link for registration. We hope to see you at our 2 remaining webinars. Our next one's January 27th at 2:30, and then following that will be February 10th. Please help promote this webinar to your colleagues, other school district staff. We have a Facebook event, we have a LinkedIn event, we have flyers, you can share the website, plenty of ways for you to help spread the word. On to the USA Professional Standard credits. This information will be emailed to you as a copy of the slides and also in the recording. So you can keep these for your records for the school nutrition folks out there. All right, and we're wrapping it up. Can't thank you enough. Had such an active chat box today. I'm really happy to see that. I don't think there were too many Zoom zombies out there, so just want to appreciate you all for being active, for getting involved, and for helping to all the school districts as well who were participating, and our speakers for helping to share their stories. So thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on the 27th, and that concludes our webinar. So thank you everyone who's able to stay on a bit longer. And we will, side note, just stay on in case chat box questions come in that you would really like us to answer, so feel free to do that.